There exists a terrifying moment in every person's life, if they are fortunate, where they survey the space around them, examine their communication device, observe the individuals they designate as family or companions, and recognize that no one is approaching. No one is going to rescue you. No one is going to invest in your vision. No one is going to impel you forward when you are exhausted. And if you collapse, no one is going to catch you. For 99% of individuals, this realization marks the commencement of a descent into despair. They perceive themselves as deserted. They adopt the mentality of victims. They appeal to the cosmos, inquiring, "Why must I undertake this journey alone?" Yet for the exceptional 1%, the outliers, the Machiavellian strategists, this moment does not constitute a calamity. It represents a consecration. You are observing this content because you sense it internally. You experience the burden of an aspiration that none of your associates comprehend. You are weary of clarifying yourself to individuals committed to misinterpreting you. You are exhausted from awaiting authorization, anticipating reinforcement, awaiting the formation of a collective. Cease your waiting. The notion that you require reinforcement to achieve success represents the most significant falsehood marketed to you by a feeble civilization. Machiavelli comprehended this truth. The great conquerors understood this truth. Historical records are not composed by assemblies. They are authored by individuals who recognized that solitude was not a deficiency. It constituted an extraordinary capability. I am going to demonstrate to you how to construct an empire with absolutely no reinforcement. I am going to illustrate to you why having no allies actually represents a strategic benefit that bestows upon you a form of lethal effectiveness that the supported individual will never attain. However, receive this warning. We are about to conduct surgical intervention on your mentality. We must excise the portion of you that craves affirmation. We must eliminate the herd creature within you. If you are apprehensive about advancing into obscurity alone, disable this content now. Return to the multitude. They will provide you warmth. Yet if you are prepared to evolve into the type of individual who instills fear in the crowd, attend with acute attention. Let us deconstruct the misconception. From the instant you entered existence, you were conditioned to be reliant. Educational institutions instructed you in collective assignments. Religious institutions instructed you in communal gathering. Society instructed you in professional relationship building. You have undergone systematic conditioning to believe that the sole method of advancement is to be elevated by others. It is not what you understand, it is who you understand. We have all encountered this phrase, and it represents toxicity. When you depend on who you understand, you are essentially acknowledging that you possess no power without them. You are relinquishing the controls of your fate to individuals who operate according to their own self-interest, not yours. Machiavelli documented in The Prince, a prudent ruler ought to rely upon that which is within his own control, not upon that which is within the control of others. When you pursue reinforcement, you are pursuing indebtedness. When someone provides you assistance, you incur an obligation to them. When someone allocates resources to your endeavor, they acquire a portion of your autonomy. When someone provides you emotional reinforcement, they possess the authority to retract that reinforcement and destabilize you. You are seeking a protective net, yet a protective net also constitutes a snare. It captures you indeed, yet it also confines you. The explanation for your lack of achievement thus far is not deficiency of reinforcement. It is that you persist in seeking it. You are expending valuable mental capacity surveying the distance for a rescuer. You are diminishing your aspiration to render it acceptable to others. You are anticipating commendation before you have even concluded the presentation.
You must embrace the null point. The null point represents the condition of complete seclusion. It occurs when you examine your financial reserves, your network of connections, and your assets, and perceive nothing except your own image. Most individuals experience panic at this juncture. You will not. You will interpret this as the ultimate liberation. If you possess zero reinforcement, you possess zero controllers. If no one facilitated your ascent, no one can dismantle your position. If you constructed it independently, you retain complete ownership of the sovereign seat. This embodies the dispassionate reasoning of the outlier. We do not lament the unoccupied space, we utilize the area to construct. Machiavelli is frequently referenced, stating, "It is superior to be dreaded than adored if you cannot embody both." Let us implement this concept to your solitude. When you are pursuing reinforcement, you are pursuing adoration. You desire individuals to appreciate your concept. You desire your relatives to experience pride. You desire your associates to celebrate. You are functioning from a position of emotional deficiency. Deficiency repels influence. Have you observed this phenomenon? The more intensely you plead for assistance, the less you receive. The more vigorously you attempt to clarify your expansive aspiration to your narrow-minded associates, the more they express skepticism. They perceive your urgency, and urgency emanates like vulnerability. To achieve success with zero reinforcement, you must cease attempting to be adored and commence demanding esteem through capability. This necessitates a transformation in your internal propulsion mechanism. You are no longer operating on the fuel of encouragement. You are operating on the fuel of opposition. You must direct your gaze toward the individuals who do not reinforce you, the skeptics, the absent ones, those who abandoned you without response. And you must not experience sorrow. You must experience a chilled, deliberate motivation. They lack belief? Excellent. This indicates the opportunity remains available. They will not assist? Excellent. This indicates you need not distribute the rewards. You must attain a condition where their apathy does not wound your emotions. It intensifies your concentration. Envision a military commander on a battlefield. He glances behind and observes his forces have abandoned him. He stands isolated, confronting the opposition. Does he recline and lament regarding allegiance? No. He evaluates his implements. He evaluates the landscape. He recognizes that an individual operative moving in obscurity presents a more challenging target than an unwieldy army advancing in illumination. He transforms into an asymmetrical force. You represent that commander. Your deficiency of reinforcement compels you to be more intelligent. It compels you to be more rapid. A massive enterprise with thousands of workers moves sluggishly. They conduct assemblies regarding other assemblies. You can transform your entire existence within a single hour because you have no one to confer with. You do not require a governing board. You require a reflecting surface. Cease interpreting your seclusion as a penalty. It functions as a sieve. It is eliminating the feeble individuals who would have impeded your progress. It is eliminating the counterfeit allies who would have injured you the instant you acquired a hint of prosperity. You are isolated because you are being shielded from the burden of other individuals' mediocrity. So how do you genuinely implement this concept? How do you awaken each day with zero communications of motivation and still labor with demonic intensity? You enter the apparition stage. This represents a principle derived from shadow psychology and strategic combat. If you possess zero reinforcement, you possess zero observers. If you possess zero observers, you possess no requirement to perform. Transform into an apparition. Most individuals fail because they verbally dissipate their vitality. They conceive an idea and immediately hasten to inform an associate. The associate responds, "That appears challenging," or "Are you certain?" Impact. The uncertainty infiltrates.
The vitality escapes. You received a minute dose of satisfaction merely from discussing the objective, which deceived your cognition into believing you had accomplished it.
Consequently, you cease laboring. The apparition does not articulate. You must adopt a commitment of silence concerning your aspirations. Do not inform your mother. Do not inform your partner. Do not publish significant developments approaching on social media. Silence generates pressure. When you possess a massive objective within you and you do not release it through verbal expression, it accumulates within your system like vapor in a sealed vessel. It transforms into physical vitality. It transforms into agitation. It transforms into restlessness. Beneficial. You require that pressure. That pressure represents the force that propels you to labor at 2 a.m. while the supported individuals are resting. When you are isolated, you possess the advantage of complete absorption. You need not attend social gatherings. You need not participate in the celebrations of individuals you do not appreciate. You need not sustain the social facade. You can release the facade and permit the formidable force within you to labor. Utilize your seclusion to become fixated. The world designates fixation as a psychological disorder. We designate it as a prerequisite. If you possess zero reinforcement, you must be fixated. You must possess greater knowledge regarding your domain than any other individual. You must be so technically proficient, so strategically sound, that you evolve into an undeniable force. Steve Martin once articulated, "Achieve such excellence that they cannot disregard you." Observe, he did not state, "Become so adored that they desire to assist you." When you are undeniable, reinforcement becomes irrelevant. And paradoxically, that represents precisely the moment when reinforcement begins to manifest. Individuals prefer to endorse a victor. They detest endorsing a struggler. As long as you are pleading for assistance, you resemble a struggler. Yet when you are excelling in obscurity, when you emerge unexpectedly with outcomes, suddenly everyone desires to be your companion. To endure this trajectory, you must undergo mourning. This represents the element that motivational speakers omit. They instruct you to exert effort. They do not inform you that exerting effort alone causes pain. You must mourn the forfeiture of the existence you anticipated having. You anticipated having a cheering section. You anticipated your parents would comprehend. You anticipated your associates would progress alongside you. They will not. You must conduct a ceremonial farewell for the version of you that required them. This experience is agonizing. It manifests as a tangible physical discomfort in the chest. It resembles betrayal. You will discover yourself gazing at the ceiling during nocturnal hours, questioning your sanity. You will ponder whether perhaps they are correct and you are mistaken. This represents the evaluation. Every outlier traverses the valley of obscurity. It represents the interval where you have departed the herd, yet you have not yet attained the refuge. You exist in the untamed expanse. In the untamed expanse, you experience hallucinations. You generate imagined adversaries. You yearn for the comfort of the enclosure you just abandoned. Yet you cannot revert. You possess excessive awareness. Once you have perceived the actuality that most individuals are operating unconsciously, that reinforcement merely represents mutual sedation, you cannot unperceive it. Consequently, you must eliminate the dependent so the sovereign can ascend. This necessitates you evolving into your own guardian. Psychologically, this represents what is designated as internal reparenting. Yet let us adopt a more shadowed perspective. Let us designate it as self-construction. You must awaken and examine your reflection and embody the paternal figure you never possessed. You must examine your financial reserves and embody the provider you never possessed. You must examine your emotional state and embody the healer you never possessed. You address yourself literally, "Arise, we have tasks to complete. Cease lamenting, no one is concerned. Concentrate." This represents the sole path forward.
You cultivate a divided identity. There exists the self that is fatigued, emotional, and vulnerable, and there exists the self that is the authority figure. The authority figure propels the vulnerable self through the difficulties. Eventually, the vulnerable self perishes, and solely the authority figure remains. If you possess zero reinforcement, you possess no one to facilitate your vulnerabilities. If you oversleep, no one rouses you. If you do not labor, you do not consume. The feedback cycle is immediate and severe. This represents a gift. Comfort represents the adversary of greatness. Reinforcement frequently functions as a buffer that prevents you from experiencing the harsh impact of your own inertia. When you are isolated, the concrete strikes with force. You acquire knowledge rapidly. You adjust. You evolve into an anti-fragile entity. Let us discuss the narrative you construct for yourself. The average individual constructs a victim narrative. I could not initiate my enterprise because I lacked funding. You will construct an antagonist origin narrative. I do not imply you become malevolent. I imply you become motivated by the perceived disrespect. Michael Jordan, the most exceptional athlete in history, was renowned for fabricating insults. He would persuade himself that an opposing player had disrespected him merely so he could summon the fury to overwhelm them. You must adopt this approach. Accept every rejection, every unanswered communication, every condescending expression, every uncertainty, and deposit it within a mental forge. Rage represents a more efficient fuel than sorrow. Sorrow renders you inert. Rage renders you agile. Machiavelli stated, "Men are so simple and so much inclined to obey immediate necessities that a deceiver will never lack victims." Do not become the victim. Become the one who perceives the simplicity of humanity. Understand that they did not reinforce you because they could not perceive what you perceive. They are simple. They obey immediate necessities, security, conformity, ease. You are complex. You obey a future necessity, glory, influence, liberation. You are articulating a language they do not comprehend. Cease attempting to interpret it for them. Simply construct the structure so elevated that they must strain to observe it. When you achieve success with zero reinforcement, the triumph is more satisfying. There exists no one to acknowledge in the acceptance address. There exists no one to distribute the benefits with. There exists a shadowed contentment in understanding that you traversed the inferno and did not incinerate, even while everyone observed and anticipated your transformation to ash. Yet to attain that state, you must master the technique of deliberate seclusion. Most individuals are isolated by happenstance. You must be isolated by intention. Sever the connections. If you are associating with individuals who deplete you merely because you dread solitude, you are relinquishing influence. You are compensating a social toll to remain in an assembly that you do not even desire to be part of. Cease compensating the toll. Remain in your space, gaze at the barrier, experience the quietness. It will be intense initially. Your thoughts will shriek. You are a failure. You have no companions. Permit them to shriek. Observe them. Examine them. Once the shrieking ceases, and it will cease, you will perceive something different. A tranquil, consistent vibration. That represents your own cognition activating for the initial instance. That represents your instinct. That represents your approach. Greatness emerges in the emptiness. Let us examine this logically. Collaborative efforts fail. Partnerships dissolve. Domestic unions terminate. The data opposes you. Whenever you introduce an additional variable, another human, into your equation for achievement, you escalate the complexity and the probability of failure. Humans are unstable. They become ill. They become disinterested. They become envious. They alter their preferences. If your strategy depends on another individual behaving consistently, your strategy is defective.
Machiavelli advised the ruler to avoid supplementary forces, armies obtained from other influential leaders. Why? Because if they are defeated, you are defeated. And if they triumph, you become their captive.
If you achieve success utilizing another individual's resources, connections, or platform, you become their captive. You must conform to their regulations. You must moderate your communication. You must negotiate your aspiration. Achieving success with zero reinforcement represents the sole method to retain your essence. Is it more challenging? Indeed. Does it require additional time occasionally? Indeed. Is it meritorious? Always. You are constructing a foundation of unyielding material. The individual who is elevated to the summit by external assistance stands upon the peak, but possesses no developed musculature. If atmospheric forces shift, he descends. The individual who ascended the mountain independently, clawing his way up the stone face, bleeding, perspiring, freezing, he possesses limbs of unyielding strength. Atmospheric forces cannot displace him. He embodies the mountain. Zero reinforcement signifies maximum education. You are compelled to acquire marketing proficiency. You are compelled to acquire product development. You are compelled to acquire financial management. You are compelled to acquire psychological understanding. You evolve into a multidisciplinary expert. You evolve into an instrument of extensive capability. The specialized expert is easily substituted. The multidisciplinary expert who constructed the entire edifice from nothing is irreplaceable. Let us explore more deeply the shadow psychology of this concept. There exists a principle designated as sublimation. It represents a protective mechanism where you take socially unacceptable impulses or unrefined emotions and transform them into productive actions. You are isolated. You are likely sad, angry, or fearful. The average individual numbs these sensations. They consume alcohol. They scroll through social media. They consume sugar. They perform any action to tranquilize the pain of seclusion. You will perform the opposite. You will experience the pain completely, and you will direct it into the work. Pain represents energy. It represents high-octane fuel. Have you ever observed how much work you can accomplish when you are experiencing heartbreak or fury? The outlier learns to access this energy source on command. You do not await a tragedy. You utilize the ambient pain of your solitude. I am isolated. Work more intensely. They disregarded me. Create more effectively. I am financially depleted. Generate more revenue. You establish a conditioned response where pain triggers production. This represents how you evolve into an automated force. While others are immobilized by their emotions, you are propelled by them. Machiavelli would designate this as virtù, not ethical virtue, but capability, prowess, the ability to impose your will upon circumstance. When you possess reinforcement, you become softened. You experience security, and security represents the termination of aspiration. You require experiencing that if you cease propelling yourself forward, you will submerge. That survival impulse is what activates the latent regions of your cognition. Now we must address methodology, specifically the energy source. When you are reinforced, you operate on luminous energy, inspiration, joy, collaboration. When you are isolated, you must acquire the skill of operating on shadow energy. Carl Jung designated this the obscured self. Machiavelli designated it the fox and the lion. Most individuals suppress their shadow aspect. They are instructed that envy, aggression, and pride represent transgressions. Consequently, they suppress them. They attempt to be virtuous, and because they attempt to be virtuous, they become innocuous. You cannot achieve success with zero reinforcement if you are innocuous. To construct an empire from nothing, you require aggression. You require the capability to observe a competitor and desire to overcome them, not physically, but strategically. You require the pride to believe that you merit more than the fragments society has allocated to you.
Integrate your shadow aspect. Cease experiencing guilt regarding your aspiration. Cease experiencing guilt regarding desiring prosperity. Cease experiencing guilt regarding desiring to demonstrate everyone incorrect. That shadow is not malevolent.
It represents latent energy. Envision a rocket. It does not ascend because it possesses benevolent intentions. It ascends because it generates a controlled detonation at its foundation. Your shadow represents that detonation. When you are isolated at 11 p.m. and you desire to abandon effort, inspiration will not rescue you. Inspiration departs when circumstances become challenging, yet resentment is faithful. Pride is eternal. Utilize them. You possess no supervisor. You possess no team. You possess no accountability companion. This represents the hazardous zone. Most individuals, when left to their own devices, dissolve into disorder. They rest until 10 a.m. They scroll through content. They labor for 20 minutes, then pause for 2 hours. They treat their autonomy like a holiday. If you adopt this approach, you will perish. To achieve success with zero reinforcement, you must become an authoritarian ruler over yourself. You require a protocol. A protocol is not a task inventory. A task inventory represents an aspiration. A protocol represents an unbreakable regulation. 1. The morning negotiation. The instant your eyes open, you are engaged in a negotiation. The vulnerable portion of your cognition desires comfort. You must prevail in this initial conflict every single day. If you are defeated by the timepiece, you have already signaled to your subconscious that you are not in command. 2. Concentrated work intervals. You do not labor throughout the entire day. That represents a falsehood individuals communicate to appear occupied. You perform concentrated work. You deactivate the communication device. You secure the entrance. You enter an altered state for 4 hours. Within those 4 hours, you generate more output than an enterprise accomplishes in a week. Why? Because you have no assemblies. You have no disruptions. This represents your asymmetrical benefit: velocity, concentration, lethal effectiveness. 3. Information consumption. If you possess zero reinforcement, your cognition represents your sole asset. If you populate it with refuse, you generate refuse. Cease viewing news broadcasts. Cease viewing entertainment channels. Study philosophical texts. Study strategic literature. Study technical manuals. Machiavelli studied the Romans to become great. 4. The evening assessment. At the conclusion of the day, you must evaluate yourself. Examine your reflection. Inquire, did I advance the objective today, or did I merely generate activity? You possess no supervisor to provide you with a performance evaluation. You must be the supervisor, and you must be a rigorous one. If you failed, acknowledge it, rectify it. Do not indulge yourself. Let us address the most significant distraction for the isolated entrepreneur: professional relationship building. You are instructed to engage in professional relationship building, attend gatherings, distribute identification cards. Attend to my guidance. Professional relationship building is for individuals who possess nothing to contribute. When you are commencing from nothing, you possess no influence. If you enter a space of influential individuals, you represent a supplicant. You are requesting attention. You are requesting favors. Influential individuals hold supplicants in contempt. Do not attend professional relationship building gatherings. Remain at home and construct. Construct value. Construct a product. Construct an audience. Construct a skill set that is so exceptional, so valuable, that you evolve into an attracting force. When you are an attracting force, you need not pursue the attracted elements. The attracted elements come to you. Machiavelli advised the ruler to render himself essential. Render yourself essential to the market. If you represent the most exceptional video editor in the specialization, content creators will locate you.
If you represent the most exceptional copywriter, agencies will locate you. If you represent the most exceptional strategist, executives will locate you. Construct the attractor. Cease pursuing the attracted elements.
Every hour you expend consuming inferior beverages at a professional relationship-building gathering represents an hour you diverted from your craft. It represents an hour you could have utilized to become undeniable. The most effective professional network is a collection of undeniable work. The most effective introduction is a documented history of excellence. Achieve success first, cultivate professional relationships later. And when you do ultimately enter those spaces, you will not be distributing identification cards. Individuals will be requesting yours. If you follow this trajectory, the trajectory of the apparition, the outlier, the Machiavellian strategist, something peculiar will occur. You will commence achieving victory. The metrics will increase. The financial resources will enter the account. The self-assurance will emanate from you like thermal energy. And then they will return. The associates who were too occupied to meet for coffee, the relatives who questioned when you would obtain legitimate employment, the former partners who abandoned you, they will return, and they will smile, and they will articulate the expression that will cause your abdomen to contract. I always recognized we would achieve success. They will attempt to revise historical events. They will attempt to insert themselves into your narrative. They desire to stand adjacent to the prize they did not assist in elevating. This represents your final evaluation. The previous you, the one who craved reinforcement, will desire to permit them re-entry. You will desire the affirmation. Do not perform this action. You must manage this with Machiavellian elegance. You need not be unkind. You need not create a disturbance. You merely sustain the separation. You treat them with the same courteous indifference with which they treated you. You evolve into a barrier of transparency. They can observe you, but they cannot access you. You recognize that their affection is contingent. It is based on your utility to them, and that is acceptable. That represents human nature. Yet you do not construct a fortress on unstable ground. The sole individuals permitted within the fortress are the ones who assisted you in transporting the materials. And since you transported them alone, the fortress belongs to you alone. This does not represent isolation. This represents self-governance. There exists a tranquility in this condition that is challenging to articulate. It represents the tranquility of understanding you are self-reliant. You understand that if you forfeited everything tomorrow, you could reconstruct everything again because you represent the asset, not your associates, not your professional network, not your fortune, you. So where does this conclude? It does not. Once you have achieved success with zero reinforcement, you have accessed an advanced tier of existence. You are no longer the survivor, you are the designer. You now possess the resources to construct the reality you desired to inhabit. And here exists the exquisite paradox. Now that you do not require reinforcement, you can provide it. You can evolve into the individual you wished you had encountered. You can identify the youthful, eager, isolated individual who is on the verge of abandoning effort. And you can be the one who articulates, continue advancing. You do not perform this action to receive something in return. You perform it because you understand the agony of the vacant space. Yet you perform it deliberately. You do not rescue everyone. You only allocate resources to those who demonstrate the potential. You evolved into the guide, the benefactor, the influential supporter. Never overlook your origins. Never overlook the cold. Never overlook the silence. Retain a fragment of that obscurity within your essence. Permit it to serve as the stabilizer that maintains you grounded while the world showers accolades at your foundation. They applaud for you now, yet you understand the truth. You applauded for yourself when the space was silent, and that applause represents the soul sound that holds significance. Pause. Direct your attention to me. I can sense your cognition attempting to reject this. This is excessively challenging, it murmurs. I require other individuals. Humans are social creatures. That represents your biological programming communicating. That represents the prey impulse attempting to guide you back to the collective, where it experiences security. Security represents an illusion. The sheep is secure until the predator arrives. The predator is secure because he represents danger. Which classification do you belong to? The trajectory of zero reinforcement is not designed for everyone. It is designed for the outlier. It is designed for the anomaly. It necessitates your willingness to appear like a failure for an extended duration, so you can appear like a legend indefinitely. It necessitates your endurance in obscurity, so you can radiate in illumination. Most individuals will deactivate this content and proceed to communicate with an associate to lament about their day. They will pursue the minimal dose of sympathy. They will experience improvement for 10 minutes and nothing will transform. Yet you remain present. You are examining. You are formulating. You are recognizing that the unoccupied seat adjacent to you does not represent a vacancy. It represents a sovereign seat awaiting your expansion to occupy it. If this content expanded your awareness, understand this represents merely what I can present publicly. There exist recordings I cannot upload for universal access. There exist aspects of shadow psychology that I simply cannot address publicly on this platform without facing restriction. Those resources exist behind the membership activation. If you remain present, you differ from the others. Subscribe if you have not already. Yet if you desire what remains concealed, activate the membership function and advance into the architect tier. You will access exclusive uncensored recordings that explore the most profound regions of the human psyche. Most will not. That represents the intended design.